All right, we are live. Good to go. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to 9-5 Escape. Hope you all are having a great start to your week. I certainly am. If you all are with us here, we're live. Just want to make sure you can hear me loud and clear. Say hello in the comments. Let me know where you're watching in from. And as I just double check here, hey Jeff's in the house. Good to see you. So if y'all, as you guys are shuffling in, let me know that you're here. You're hearing us loud and clear. Welcome to 9-5 Escape. Excited to have you guys here today. If you're new to the group, welcome into the group. Today and every Monday, we go live 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Eastern to share what's working as we escape or have escaped our 9-to-5s for online entrepreneurship, lifestyle entrepreneurship, whatever you want to call it. That's what we do here. And so welcome to our Monday Live. As maybe some of you regulars have noticed, I changed the name to Action Livestream because what I want this to be for you is a place where you come for ideas to get put into action on your businesses. So every Monday you can leave with something to walk away with that you can start implementing on your business right away. So we have officially changed the name to Action Livestream. So welcome everybody. Good to have you guys here. Hey, Georgia. Welcome. And so today I have a really interesting call. So just going to tee that up for you guys here as well. But again, if you're new, welcome to the group. And also, if you haven't already done it, after this training, just go up to the announcements and introduce yourself. Let us know who you are, what your business is about, and what you would like to learn here, because we want to be able to provide you with the best and most relevant content every week as well. So again, welcome to the group. So just going to tee up the call here today. We're talking about something really interesting, which I believe is fundamental to our success in marketing online, and that is storytelling. So this can be sort of somewhat confusing for a lot of us because sometimes we feel like we have a really big story we want to tell, not enough time, or we lose people in it. And then other times we feel like we just don't have anything to really share. How do we create a compelling story around something that we don't feel like is that exciting? And so today we're going to be talking about the importance of our stories and also how to start stepping into creating your own story for yourself. What are the key factors there? And really what this training is going to be based off of is a concept that I learned from Pat Quinn around storytelling in his sort of braided framework. And so we'll talk about that as well. So you guys are excited about that. Let me know by dropping a storytelling down below in the comments. We're going to dive into that. I'm also going to have an invitation for some of you that are watching here to really take a deeper look at what it would be like to set yourself on a more accelerated pace with your business or your escape plan. And so we're going to have a special invitation towards the end here for you guys as well. So stay tuned for that. Really going to take a little bit of a closer look at your business, get you an action plan that you can put into play. So hang around for that as well. So excited to get into this here with you guys. If you're ready, drop a 1 down below. Let me know you're ready to get started. Hey, Karina. And we're gonna get into it. So some of you may have actually seen this training as well over the weekend with Pete Vargas and Pat Quinn. And it's really, these guys are really incredible. They're leaders within the field of online marketing, especially when it comes to speaking in public. And they've helped some tremendous speakers from Tony Robbins to Damon James and beyond. And so it really was cool and interesting to see their approach is really exactly the same for those kind of high profile figures as it would be for someone like me or someone like you. And so I think it was really cool to kind of walk away from that. But what I wanted to start off with here today is just talking about a little bit about the importance of storytelling and why it makes such a difference. And I'll tell a story around that as well, because I still remember, the reason why this is so important to me and the reason why I share this every week and come in here is because of the moment that I decided to actually walk away from my 9-to-5 myself. And it had such an impact on my life that it became my mission to share that, to, bring it to the world. And I'll never forget walking out of my boss's office and going into mine and sitting down at the desk and feeling completely defeated. And what had happened was a couple of weeks before, I had approached my boss, my company, and asked them to relocate. I really wanted to move to Colorado by the way, where I now live. And at the time I was working in medical publishing. I was traveling like crazy. So 3 weeks out of the month I was on the road. If I wasn't on the road, I was commuting 3 hours round trip into the office into New York, and I was totally burnt out. I had a good income, I had a good career path, but it was not fulfilling me. I was just feeling tired. I was feeling overwhelmed. I don't know if you guys can relate, but sometimes I'd wake up in the morning with this feeling of overwhelming anxiety or this tightness in my chest with knowing what I'd have to go out and do. It wasn't like I was doing something bad or illegal. It was just not doing what I was really calling me. And that feeling was so hard to get rid of. And when I sat down in my desk and I came back, from speaking with my boss, I had that same feeling. And it was so strong. And I opened up my computer and I went onto Facebook. And the first thing that I saw changed my life forever. And it was one of my really good friends from college. And he was standing on the Swiss Alps in the snow on his snowboard with his arms up. And below him, all you could see was a layer of clouds covering whatever was below him. And he's standing there, and above those clouds was this bright blue sky, as blue as you could ever imagine. And through the clouds was jutting these massive Swiss peaks, snow-capped in all of their majesty. And I saw that picture and I realized that he had done exactly what I wanted to do. He was living this lifestyle. It was a couple of months or maybe 6 months or so before where he and I would sit on Google Chat and talk to each other about he was going to quit his job as an analyst, and I was going to go and move to Colorado. He was going to travel around the world and build a hostel. And that moment in time inspired me so much that at that very moment, I decided I was never going to go back. I was going to leave corporate completely. And I did. And what's so interesting is that he traveled around the world. He actually built a hostel. He followed his intuition and got there. And it wasn't always easy. I felt when I was leaving, I had no options. I didn't know where I was headed. I didn't know what was available to me, but I knew that I had the conviction to go out and do whatever it took to get that lifestyle that I wanted. And I know that you can have that for yourself as well. So as we talk about storytelling today, I want you to really just think about your own experiences that brought you to where you are, and that has allowed you to be able to help the people that you've already helped, and see how you can intertwine that into your story to really connect with others. Because I can tell you, I don't wake up anymore and have that feeling of anxiety in me anymore. I don't have to commute 3 hours. I don't have to travel 3 weeks out of the month anymore. My commute is 30 steps in the other direction. And that's all possible for you as well. And so learning how to incorporate your story and telling that effectively to people is what's going to allow you to make connections with them that are authentic, and they're going to want to come and do business with you. So if you guys are hearing me, just let me know I didn't lose you in my story there. But what I really want to just talk to you guys about is ultimately the importance of that communication and why it makes so much sense. Because if you think about people that talk in stories versus people that talk in sort of factual information, we often will hear them better. We'll remember them more, right? They'll stick in our minds for longer. And there's a reason for that. And it's the same reason why, if you think about a movie that you once watched that made you laugh, or that made you cry, or maybe it made you angry or sad or scared, movies are not real. They're not happening to us in real life, but we still feel that emotion inside from whatever is happening, because they're telling a story that we can relate with, that feels real to us, because we've been in similar situations before. We've gone through similar things before, right? That's why some of the most emotionally fed movies are so popular, because so many people can connect with those different things. And so if we can figure out a way to tie our story into something that is relatable to other people, that's going to bring out emotion in them, then they're going to be able to take action. They're going to be able to take that next step. And what was so cool about the training that Pat and Pete shared with us was that it's not about telling a story to sell something. It's about telling a story in order to enroll somebody really into the next step of whatever it is. And enroll might sound like a strong word, but we're in a business group here, so we're going to use the enroll word. But it's really about getting someone to take action, to do the next thing, right? And so if you all have a product that you're selling, you might tell a story around, how that product helped you, but the ultimate, end goal for that one conversation is not necessarily going to be to sell them that product. It might be to have them, be able to send them some information about it, or to, send them a resource that's not even related to your product, right? And so it's about getting them to the next step, because the more we can help somebody up front before we try to sell them anything, the more likely they are to come back and actually ask us for that help. Because why would somebody come and buy something from you or ask you for help if you weren't willing to help them in the first place, right? So we have to kind of get our heads around that. So again, I think about the movie thing, because it makes it so much easier, I think, in order to think of ways where we can connect that emotion, and how just movies about people we don't even know, or stories that we've never heard before, can bring out such emotion within us. That's what we're trying to capture. So the first step, I think, to relating is understanding. And that is two things. One is, what problem do you solve? And the second thing is, who do you solve that problem for? Right? Because in order to be able to speak directly and to channel that emotion, because we have to be able to tell the story ourselves. And if it's not coming from within, it's going to be hard to make that connection. So in order for it to come within, we need to be speaking to people that are going to, that we relate to, that makes sense for us to share with, right? And so understanding what problem you solve and who you solve it for are going to be the two first biggest steps for you to take in order to be able to tap into that right person. So when you tell the story, then you start getting the head nod, as Pat was saying. And so you want to know that people are hearing your message. Yeah, the other thing that you want to consider within that is that it's not just about knowing what problem you solve and who you solve it for, but also speaking in their language. Something we do in the Escape core curriculum in the inner circle is really break that down and talk about how to speak in niche, really understanding how your market wants to hear the words that you're saying. I talked about that a couple of weeks ago as well, because sometimes you get disconnected from your message when you know what the solution is, right? Like when I first started and I wanted to leave my corporate career and for online entrepreneurship, I didn't know what that first step was or the solution would be. And so it was really easy for me to come up with the problems that I was facing. But now that I have the solution, it becomes a little bit more difficult to channel that specific emotion that was really that struggle. So one of the examples that Pat had given actually in his course is that, you can think about some of the things that your prospect is thinking about the night before they're meeting with you, or they're laying in bed, and what's running through their head before they're going to meet with you, and that's how you can put yourself sort of in that position and channel that feeling. And when he said that, I kind of did that again. I remember, it used to take me on average an hour and a half to 2.5 hours to fall asleep at night when I worked in corporate, when I worked in New York. 2.5 hours, like on average, to fall asleep, which is ridiculous. And now I fall asleep in about 5 minutes or not even. But that's how much was going through my head. There was so many things that I was thinking about, not just in terms of like client things and sales and all that stuff, but like my personal feeling has a why am I doing this if it's not satisfying me, and all those different things. And that's what will keep you up at night. So try to channel those things and craft your story around that, because ultimately when you're talking to somebody, there's lots of different situations, which means you're going to have lots of different stories. And so the framework, the braided framework that Pat teaches, and I'm going to walk through in a minute here, is really just going to help you structure that in any situation, because we don't have just one story. People always say, tell your story, which implies that you only have one, but we all have thousands of stories. Every experience that we have is a story, and we can use those experiences to better relate to people that also had a similar experience, right? Why talk about something different if you can talk about something that is really similar, and you can connect with somebody a lot easier on that? And so learning how to tell the story based around a framework is what's really going to help you the most. A couple of other questions that you could ask that he brought up was, what barrier is stopping you from getting to where you want to be? And what obstacle is stopping you from being as successful as you could be? People will often tell you what they think is holding them back. And this is something that we also dive into in the inner circle, is like, how do we ask the questions that will give us the answers that we need to be able to provide the results that people want from us? And it's really by asking strategically, what do you want? What do you actually want? Right? All right, guys. So I'm about to jump in here to the Story Braid, as Pat Quinn calls it. It's their proprietary formula for really forming a story. So all credit to Pat and Pete here for their Story Braid. But if you guys are with me and this is all clicking with you, just drop a 2 in the comments. I want to know that this is connecting. This makes sense, and that you'll be able to sort of start implementing some of these things into your story. Some of you that are watching and are in the inner circle, this fits in so perfectly with the storytelling mastery course that we have within there. That goes a little bit deeper even than this, but it will really help you get your head around that. So let's jump into the Story Braid here. So the first part of the Story Braid that Pat outlines is the opening. And what he says is, he calls it an opening heart. Okay, so it really means connecting with the audience in a heartfelt way. And that should be a quick sort of introduction, and maybe share a story around something that will help you connect with the audience. The second piece of his framework is head. So he goes heart, head, hands, heart. That's going to be the 4 steps for you guys. So heart, head, hands, heart. And the first is opening with a heartfelt statement that really helps you connect with the audience. The second is head, where you teach content, you offer advice, you give coaching, you provide value to your client, regardless of the fact of whether or not they're working with you. That doesn't matter. So you're giving some content. Okay. The third part then is going to be hands. And that's where you have a call to action for somebody to take the next step, right? It doesn't necessarily mean they're buying something. It means they're taking the next step in the process. And how can they do that? Because what people don't realize is a lot of times we'll be talking about all the right things on our, profiles, we'll be connecting with the right people, but we never make an offer to them about how they can work with us, because that would be selling, or I'm afraid to do that. And ultimately we need to have a call to action at all times. It doesn't need to be, hey, buy my thing. It can be, hey, sign up for my newsletter, or hey, join my group, and so that call to action is super important. And then he says, end with a closing of the heart. And again, that means just addressing it, getting personal again, so that you're not just saying, hey, like, do this thing and see you later. Right. And so it's a really simple framework. I think you don't even have to go much deeper than that. I mean, start with connecting, then go into teaching, then have a call to action, and then connect again, with somebody. And if you can follow that, whether it's, you could do that in a presentation form, you can do that in a conversation on the phone, through Facebook Messenger. You got to think of your story as having the ability. And when we go through Russell Brunson's framework in the inner circle, that's how we break this up. It's like, how can I talk about my story in 5 seconds, 30 seconds, an hour, 3 days? And it's all about having the framework and then being able to expand within it. So you can compress it, or you can also expand on it, based on the amount of time you have. If you're in a coffee shop with somebody, you only have a couple minutes, tell your story in one way. That's going to be, to the point. if you were giving a seminar over the course of a weekend, you can use the same framework to tell your same story, just in a longer, more deep dive way, right? This training in particular, I mean, I went into his full course for this, right? So I could spend 3 hours talking about some of these pieces, but for all purposes for this training, we're talking about just the basic framework. How can you go out and kind of plug this into your story right away, start practicing with it, and go deeper later as you start to learn, right? So one of the biggest takeaways, I think one of the key takeaways here that I really loved, was that he said, be ordinary and be extraordinary at the same time. Sometimes have you guys ever heard a story of somebody? Just say me in the comments if you've ever heard a story from somebody, you're like, man, that's amazing. That person's awesome. I could never do that. Right? I mean, I certainly have. And it's one of those things that almost like excludes us from the whole thing. And then there's those people that say like, I struggle with this, I struggle with that, I can't get this, I can't get that. Do you want to come with me? And you're like, that doesn't sound good at all. That person's not getting any traction. They're still stuck where I'm stuck. So why would I go stick with them? And so what Pat was really saying was be ordinary, but also be extraordinary, be relatable, make your story fit with other people. And that goes back to getting to the problems, those problems that somebody's thinking about in bed at night. Like those things are going to help you tap into the ordinary. Those are problems that everybody in your niche probably has or has had at one point. And if we can tap into those things and then talk about how we're extraordinary because we have that solution to it. It's okay. It's being extraordinary in a way that you're not bragging. It's being confident, I think is how he put it actually, which is really important. So how can we make our story ordinary without being too extraordinary? And so, as you know, if any of you have heard me tell my story before, I often talk about how I quit my job and traveled around the world and became a skydiver and all of these different things. And when I told my story at the beginning of this Zoom, I left a lot of that out to see how I can make it more relatable to my audience while still telling my authentic, true story. And so it's interesting how you can change and alter and pivot around your story at any time, and it's still your story, but it's relatable. We have to remember that it's relatable, right? Anybody network marketers in the house, you've probably been around those, power players in the organization. And if I guarantee you that they're not going out and building their organization by saying, hey, I'm number one in the company and you can be number one too. And it only took me 3 months to get there, because that's not relatable. Most people will say, well, I'm not a superstar like that, so I'm not even going to try. How can we be relatable? All right. So the one other thing I think is interesting is really being able to implement your why into that story and sharing with people why it's your mission or your greater purpose to really help and do what you're doing. Because that it's something bigger than just you. It's not just Aaron. It's somebody more. It's something more. And so try to get your why into your story as well. So he breaks this down into 4 parts, and it's where we're going to kind of start to wrap this up. But really, the 4 parts of every story. So you follow the framework of heart, head, hands, heart, and then within that you have 4 parts of your story. Part 1 was your ordinary and extraordinary, and showing your why. So kind of making that story about, like we just talked about, how is it relatable, but how are you extraordinary because you have a solution, and weaving in your why into that as well. Part 2, you're going to have your proprietary process, right? And so that's basically your 3, 4, 5 step process that gets your client from point A to point B, from where they are to where they want to go, right? In this group, it's the escape curriculum. It's 6 steps, proprietary curriculum that I created that takes you from in your 9 to 5 to out of your 9 to 5 in online entrepreneurship. Okay, so you're going to have that unique proprietary process, and that may be really similar to other processes out there. What I teach is not wildly different than what Patt and Pete teach. but they have their own way of doing it, and I have my own way of doing it. And that's your process. Okay. Third, you're going to have your call to action, or the next step for people to take. So what he really mentioned and pulled out of here that I think is super important is have one option. I've made this mistake a million times in the past, and really focus on trying to change that. And when I did make that shift, I noticed that I was getting a lot more feedback, a lot more response from people. And sometimes, it's really tricky, especially if you're providing a product to somebody and you have more than one product to offer. How do I go out and just offer one option to somebody? We have 300 options. Like, we could change your life, but there's a starting point for everybody. And when you go into the food store and you're trying to pick out like a barbecue sauce, and there's 50 different ones, and not only that, there's like 7 brands, and it's totally crazy. You just forget it. I'll just either get the same one I always get, or I don't even want barbecue sauce anymore. We don't want to do that to our customers. We really want to too many options confuse people, exactly like Jeff says. It doesn't help. It doesn't serve us, and it doesn't serve our clients. Because if you give somebody 10 options, they're going to say no. If you give them one option and they say yes, then you can give them 2 options the next time, and then 3 options the next time. But if you don't ever get that first opportunity, you've lost somebody. So let's not overwhelm them. So it's really, really important. And it's something that I strongly encourage, is to really limit the amount of options that you give people. Too many options just doesn't work. And then, of course, part 4 was, again, end with the heart. Affirm your client and really connect with them once again. Something I want to mention here is just to drive this point home, is the always be enrolling mindset. And when all we look at is enrolling into the next step of the process, as long as our process is set up the right way, our client will get to the point where they can either hang out somewhere and continue to get valuable information or coaching from you, or they can take the next step in their journey and make that a reality for themselves, with some help, some guidance, some structure. And so I want to sort of change lanes here as well. And in the beginning, I mentioned that I would offer to you guys to take a look at what it would look like for you to sort of step into that accelerated process, and to really have the guidance that you need. And I'm really seeing, we have the Escape Inner Circle. It's a 6-step process to really walk you through getting yourself set up digital marketing wise, and also having a structure for your clients to go through, that you can see that's clear, and that they can see that's clear, so that you have predictability in your business and you have consistent results. And so what we're seeing right now, I think Georgia, I don't know if she's still on, but Georgia's in the Inner Circle and totally rocking it right now. I mean, we're seeing wins around clarity. We're seeing wins around niche. We're seeing wins around goal setting and specific metrics and measures, of really how she's going and planning to move her business, and then getting into action, immediately sharing with her team and everything else. It's super empowering to see this going on, and lots of good energy in there as well. So, if you guys want to experience wins like that, you want to tap into an accelerated growth process for your business, then drop an I'm in the comments below. And what I'll do is I'll just reach out to you, and I'll set up a one-on-one. We'll get on the phone for 15 minutes and just talk about where you're at, where you want to go, and whether or not this makes sense for you. Because it really is a way to install strategy into your business, so that you can move into sort of the future of online marketing with confidence. And so your customers can experience that same confidence as well. So if you guys want to experience similar wins and results like we're seeing in the Inner Circle, be part of that energy and that excitement, then drop an I'm in the comments, and I will reach out to you to talk about that further. So guys, I hope that that this storytelling coaching was useful for you. I want to just encourage you, because, when I first started out, I had absolutely no direction. I did not know where I was going. But like I shared in the beginning, I had this conviction to go out and figure it out. And I know that you will figure it out as well. You're on this journey. You're here in this group. You're learning. And that is the first step, is really putting yourself into action. So congratulations to you for being here and for watching. I want to just acknowledge you for that, because that really is truly the most important piece, is just taking that journey, starting that journey. It doesn't matter how long it takes you. As I always say, and I'm always reminded by my wife, is the journey is the destination. And when you can look at life like that, I think every day is exciting. So kudos to you for being here and for taking action on your business. You guys are rocking it. So anything you want to see in the future on Mondays, drop it in the comments, shoot me a message. Anything that you want to focus on, we will be here to do that. So just let me know. We want to be able to provide you with relevant information that's really going to help you move your business forward so that you can escape your 9-to-5 as well, and really live a lifestyle that you dream of. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. Have a great week. Get out there and get into action. Start working on your story. Drop your stories into the group. I want to see them. I want to get excited about them. Let's see how we can refine on them and get you guys moving forward. All right, I'll catch you next Monday on our Action live stream. Until then, have a great week. Cheers, guys.